And today right now, we're going to do something less mindset-y, unless you count protecting your team from drama queens and assholes and liars and the people that you just didn't think to interview very well. We saw Justin talk, we saw Doug, we saw Evelyn, and I see a lot of people going, oh man, I've hired a lot of people and I haven't done any of that. And that's okay. Once you know better, you do better. Today we're going to learn other stuff that you haven't done any of. And that's okay. We're going to put together a plan for you to go back and start doing it, one piece at a time. One of the things that they say, so as Justin was showing you on his graph, as with most things at How to Manage, I am the extension of Justin Crawford's graph. So, so much of what we do fits together. The recruitment, the vetting, the interviewing, the onboarding is the last stop of the recruitment process. And it is a process, not an event. And the reason that onboarding is part of recruitment still is because it is the 30, 60, 90-day window where you finally get to stop calling the person the candidate and start calling them the employee. They are still very squarely a candidate for the first 30, 60, maybe 90 days, for the same reason that farmers don't name their pigs. Because you hire an employee, and then a person shows up. So imagine if you hired my resume, and then this walked through your door. Because that's what happens when you interview the way we've been interviewing, and when you recruit the way we've been recruiting. I just wanted everyone to see me in my natural state, which is with a tiara. So when we say onboarding, what do we mean? And that's what we're going to talk about today. We've talked a lot. You've heard the word onboarding, 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 onboarding. What is it? And we're going to talk about that. What does it look like? Why do you do it? How do you do it? Onboarding is the last piece of the recruitment puzzle and the first piece of the supervision and management puzzle. It makes it a continuous line. It's a circle, so that one thing feeds the other. Onboarding isn't an event. It's not something you do, check off, and say, sure, I'm glad I did that. It starts the feedback loop. It starts the performance evaluations. It starts how you develop a relationship. So when I say it's not a process, it's an event, it's an impactful, life-changing for your candidate and for you, business-changing event. It turns your top-notch candidate into your top-notch employee. It's tactical, like HR manuals, and it's cultural. It's how you form a connection between your new employee and the rest of the employees. Raise your hand if you do not have an onboarding plan at all. Okay, now go to the back of the room. No, I'm joking. Okay. Raise your hand if you have an onboarding plan. Some of you have raised your hand twice. Just saying. This matters either way, because if you have an onboarding plan, I want you to think now of the extra stuff that you can add, the ways that you can make it better, that consistent incremental improvement. Sit down and think of your onboarding plan. Is this just like a 3-day task list? Or is this a journey that plugs my client in, indoctrinates them, inculcates my candidate, not client. You could hire a client, but don't. Your candidate. I want it to be a journey. If you don't have an onboarding plan, then I want you to just start with compliance. And then every quarter you add another piece. And that's what we're going to work on. If onboarding is at the center, then the first step that we're going to talk about is compliance. These are the 4 C's. I'm going to go fast through them. The second part's clarification. Who does what by when? Then culture, and then connection. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You guys have heard that before? Do you remember it at all? Compliance is the foundation. It's the bare minimum. It's what you need to survive. And then you're working your way up to culture and to connection. So compliance, the minimum, the foundation. Take a few minutes, we can't take a few minutes. Okay, here's what it is. It's your company rules. It's your employee handbook. It's, are they included or excluded from the overtime rules? What's the dress code? What's the timekeeping system? It's the most basic aspects of their job, plus the legal and policy related issues. This is what most people do, and it's called orientation. This is what most people do, and they call it onboarding. And they pat themselves on the back, and they tell themselves that they have onboarded someone. You have not. You have ensured compliance, the minimum threshold, the other alternative being showing someone to a desk and walking away from them, which is what I got when I started at the Public Defender's Office. Clarification. This is the who does what by when. Who's your boss? Who are you on a team with? What's the clarity around your role? What's expected of you? This is when you go from the employee manual to the job description, right? We're getting a little more clarity to them. Who's in charge of you? Who are you going to be reporting to? This is the org chart. You're just offering a little bit more clarity. You're taking a little bit beyond compliance and you're connecting them to the bigger picture. Then we move into culture, and this is where it starts to get rich. Any anthropology or archaeology nerds in the room? Okay. Culture is the artifacts that you leave behind. We know what kind of culture a civilization was or is by looking at what the things, what's going on around them. Was there art? Was there medicine? Was there music? How was the neighborhood laid out? Did everybody face a town square? Was there a hospital? Like, this is the culture. Were there no museums and lots of churches? Were there no churches and lots of museums? That tells you a lot about culture. When you look at it in your firm, how is your office set up? What is your computer system like? Does everybody like prairie dog over the cubicles? Does everybody get an office? Is it a big open floor plan? Do attorneys get offices and everybody else gets cubicles? That says something about culture. Let people know and let them start getting a feel and tapped into what your culture is. Beyond that, it's your mission. Why does your business exist for the world? It's your vision. What do you want to become? It's your values. How are you going to do it? It gives your new hire an example. It gives your candidate something to consider of what kind of leader can they expect to be working with. Big ones for culture. What gets rewarded and what gets punished? This is where you start letting them know how risk averse your business is or not. And this is what sets you apart from literally everybody else. This is why we can give away employee guides. We can give away job descriptions, for the most part. We can give away org charts, but I can't give you a job ad. I can't just give you one off the shelf because it has to be customized with your culture. Your onboarding plan has to be customized with your culture. It's the one thing that your COO or your CEO or your CSO or whoever can't do it for you. What do you celebrate? What do you reward? This is what's different about a small solo law firm. You guys move so fast. You can get profitable so quickly as compared to mid-size law or big law. You can make changes at lightning speed if you want to, if that's your culture. And so that's why you really need to sit down and think about, what do we do? Why do we do it? How do we want people to feel? Culture is inside your firm. What does it feel like? And once you know that story, why do you do what you do? What are you moving towards? How are you going to get there? That's when you connect. And this is the highest level. This is nirvana of onboarding. When you understand your candidate story, why do they do what they do? Why do they want to work with you? Why did they accept your offer over another? Why did they go through the quiz? Why have they sat through these 5 freaking interviews? It connects your new hire to the personal story of the firm. You start to marry the stories together, marry the visions together, and help your new hires see a future in your firm. They said earlier, and I want you guys to truly believe it, hear it, people work for you for their own reasons. Not your reasons, their reasons. And they will only work for you so long as they see a better life while they're doing it. This is where you help them see a better life with you. You connect with them on that deeper level. This is what leads to engagement. Why do we care about that? There's been a lot of Henry Ford quoted today. But it makes your business better. You spend a little time now or a lot of money later. Your onboarding process is how you sort the superstars from the duds. It's how you know if you just hired a bullshitter. It's how you find out if you hired a bully. The way people behave under stress, I've seen people interview very, 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 very well. I've seen professional legal administrators bamboozle people with bullshit. Salespeople have sold their way into a position and then sat down at the table, and if it wasn't for the onboarding process, we would have had them in front of a client just to realize they were a very dangerous person to have in front of a client. So you spend a little money now or a lot of money later, and you get your new employees profitable faster. I know it makes stomachs hurt when we say don't have them do anything for 2 weeks. Don't do anything. When I hire a new professional legal administrator, where's some in the room who I have helped onboard? For the first 90 days, you're not allowed to do anything. Right, Jen? You carry around a notepad and you write down everything you want to do as soon as you're allowed to do it. But your first job is to understand why they do things the way they do them. So spend a little money now or spend a little time now or a lot of money later. We joked about this earlier, but it's an actual statistic. 1 in 25 hires just don't show up on the first day. This is from Society for Human Resources Management, so it's a bunch of people like me around the country that took a survey. 17% leave after the first 3 months, some voluntarily, some not voluntarily. And if you're doing hourly employees who consider this shift work, like I can make $15 an hour for you as a receptionist or $15 an hour at Steak and Shake, there's actually higher turnover. It's much higher around hourly workers, to the tune of about $5,000 each time one of your new hires flames out. So we get them profitable and we help them stick around. 50% greater profitability off your new hires. People with functional onboarding, right? We're not even saying it's good, we're just saying it's structured. They are 58% more likely to be with the organization after 3 years. And if you make it great, almost 70% of the employees who are onboarded with a great onboarding system, like I help you build, like you'll get the nuggets of here today, they stay for 3 years. How much work can you get done in your business in 3 years? You basically have a different DNA for your company 3 years from now. That's a lot of training and retraining and onboarding and re-onboarding that you don't have to do it if you just do it right the first time. And so doing it right the first time has some steps in it, but overarchingly, it's going to be communication, communication, communication. That's what we learned from the exercise earlier, right? Is it a pool party? Is it a backyard barbecue? Nobody knows. It's just a party. Show up whenever. And many of you do onboard that way. So we're going to talk about some best practices. We're going to talk about ways to build it better. The first part of onboarding falls on you. Accepting the offer is just the beginning for you. Now you have to figure out what's involved. And we call this T minus 10. 10 days before they show up. Start. Start figuring out who's going to talk to them. Where are they going to eat? Where are they going to sit? Do they have a computer? Don't make your new employee's first day the least important thing on your calendar. That's a shitty feeling. I've walked into a room with 18 boxes stacked in a chair and said, "That's your computer, set it up. Here's a card, happy first day." I felt really loved and wanted. So does everybody else who you bring in and start off that way. Don't make your new employee feel like they are inconveniencing you by deciding to have this be their first day, because who actually decided this would be their first day? You did. And if it wasn't going to be a good day for you, what do you have the power to do? Change the date to a day when you can be there, where you can engage. None of you are big enough to not give a shit about your new employee. I had 400 employees. Well, I didn't, but firm I ran had 400 employees. No one's big enough to not give a shit about your employee's first day. Even the receptionist matters. Especially the receptionist matters. Do you want a receptionist who feels like an afterthought, being the person that talks to all of your new clients and sending them over to your salespeople and getting them excited about working with you? I guess it's only kind of rhetorical. It also gives you the time to set up the assignments, figure out what they're going to do, set up their accounts. This is the basics. This is the nitty-gritty. There's other stuff you can do. Pull together the swag, find a buddy, right? If you already have an onboarding, think now about how you can enhance what you're doing 10 days before they show up. Then it's the pre-engagement glide path for them. Let them know what they can expect. Give them an itinerary. Tell them what kind of pool party they're coming to. We talked about designing and building the job for profit. Give them their job description. Let them know here what their KPIs are going to be. Share with them your mission, your vision, your values. Get them excited about showing up. Tell them about the dress code. You know, you can knock compliance out with this step. Email them the employee guide, give them the org chart. There's so much you can do to keep them excited about coming to work for you. The most dangerous thing to have between acceptance of the job and the first day is silence. You start wondering, do they still like me? Are they going to come? They're wondering, am I really taking this job? They gave me a job and then fell off the face of the earth. I haven't heard anything. Why do you think 1 in 25 people doesn't show up? They found something better with somebody made them feel wanted. Because what? They're only going to be with you for as long as they feel like their life is better for being there. They found somebody who was a better option in 10 days. It happens. Your first day needs to be a well-choreographed event, exercise, dance, orchestration, whatever. The first week is absolutely critical. While we talk about a 30, 60, 90-day onboarding plan, so common sense would say they get 90 days to prove themselves. Who here honestly believes that? How often have you changed your mind about someone after your first week's impression of them? Right. So he said after the first week, no. Right? We can all have a bad day. But after you give them like a week and they're not getting it and they're not clicking, or you're not doing a good job and they're not able to help you, they don't really get 90 days to prove themselves in the job. They get about a week. So that's why you want to make sure that their first week sets them up for success, doesn't tank them, protect them. You all have assholes in your firms, you know it. Don't make them the new person's buddy, please. As a matter of fact, give that person vacation the week that your new employee is starting, so that we can introduce them later after we've had a chance to explain why the crazy uncle is still invited to the barbecue. There needs to be regular and consistent information sharing built in. This is part of what you're doing in the T minus 10 days. You know someone's coming on board in 2 weeks, go block your calendar now. Go protect your calendar now. If it's someone you're going to be managing, if it's someone you're directly responsible to, beginning of the day, end of the day, an hour, an hour. If you're going to be doing the training, block it. If you're the owner and you have a firm administrator who's going to be doing the training, you at least want to be involved on the first day, block it. The firm administrator then needs to bookend their calendar. Everybody needs to make sure that we are protecting the time. Because what happens if we don't protect it? Minute by minute, it ekes away. And then on the person's third day of work, they're supposed to be sitting with you, learning about the mission, vision, and values, but instead they're watching a video of me talking about onboarding at an LQM. I've seen some of your onboarding plans. It involves me talking about onboarding at an LQM. I'm not for them. Trust me. You don't want me onboarding them. So we've talked about day one. This is your onboarding day. This is your well-orchestrated event. There's all sorts of fun things. You guys, I've heard really fun things that you do on employees day one. I've seen big giant cards that everyone has signed. I've seen bags of swag sitting at the desk waiting for them. One of the things that one of the firms that went through the Superstar Cast workshop that they built out while they were there is in the T minus 10, they email the employee and they find out, do you have any allergies? What's your favorite food? And then they made sure on day one, that kind of food was catered in. When they onboarded during COVID, they make sure that kind of food was Ubered to their house. So we were still doing lunch on day one for a virtual employee. What are some other cool things that you've done or seen? Add those into your plan. Take a minute and just think. Write it down. I know I gave you a spot for day one in your workbook. Write it down in your workbook. What's a really cool thing that you could do for them on day one? Feel free to use anything I've said, anything listed here, or anything that you come up with on your own. You don't give them time alone on day one. Sorry. You don't stick them in a corner and have them read a book. Day one is high touch, high contact. There's a lot of teaching, a lot of training, a lot of talking. What you got?
So I have a virtual law firm.
Everything I'm saying here, do it over Zoom.
Well, what about like the Uber lunch was a good one, but like the big card and those kinds of things, my team's all over the country.
Awesome. I've not with one of the firms I've worked with here, but I think it's an ideal situation for a virtual firm or where there's even a hybrid. Everybody recorded a little greeting about why they loved working for the company and why they were glad that this person was coming on board. And like, we've seen the job description, we've talked about how you're coming on board, it's going to be amazing, and they put it together into a video. And so they send out a video to the person in advance of their first day. Like, we love it here, blah, 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 and then the video the next day was, and we're so excited that you're coming. So they did some video stuff for them.
So, would this be a customized video where it's like, hey, Jenny, like, we're so excited you're here, or it's just like, hi, you, we're so glad you're coming.
What do you think? What would you like?
As the owner, I would love like, hey, you, because then it's one time and done. But point taken. Point taken. I got it.
I know. I knew you knew before you even asked the question. You're smart, Layla. Hi, Ron.
How are you, Nichole? So I'm actually having two people start on the same day.
Okay.
And you're going through this and it keeps going, all right, should I be doing this together? Should I not be doing? And so far, at least, and to prevent that question distracting me, that's why I came up to the mic.
Yes.
Other than the connection part, which I guess should be separate, because is there a problem doing, they are both paralegals, but they're going to be doing very vastly different things. Is it still okay
It's great.
to do it together through the whole process?
It's great.
Okay.
When I was at the PD's office, we started people, and at HTMU, we start people in classes, right? And that takes connection to a different level also, because now you've got like a war buddy, like you've got somebody that's been through onboarding with you. You've got like, it creates a whole new level of connection. But yes, you can do mission, vision, values with a whole group. I used to do it with 30 new lawyers at once. You can go over the employee guide with everybody. You can talk about org charts and job descriptions and the firm's history and why you do what you do and your magic. You can do all of that with a group. And then the connection starts to come as you go through onboarding, right? So there's a lot of training that you're going to be able to do at the same time. This is that leverage. This is economies of scale. If you have the personnel and the support to onboard 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 employees at the same time, do it. Just make sure that you have somebody there who can train them too, and spend time with them after day one.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Nicole, how are you?
Hey.
It's my first LQM in person. And I waited there for Arjun, didn't get to talk to him, but I'm glad I'm talking to you.
I'll have to do.
Oh, no, yeah. I listen to you all the time, and you know me. So anyway, okay, so the 2 weeks of training,
We're still on day one.
I know, but
Don't psych yourself out before we even get there. We're still on day one.
Okay. So we just onboarded a receptionist. Should I hold on for later and come back, or should I go ahead and ask?
I'm going to go to day 2.
Okay. So we just, all right. So
Are you asking me about week 2 of training?
I'm asking, okay, so we had 2 days of training that my assistant gave her, because I've been out on trial and now out of, town. And then I'm going to go back and I'll have a couple days, and then my assistant is leaving, so the receptionist is going to be stepping in. And
Guess who
doing a
your
lot
new
of stuff.
hires has imprinted on? You know how
Mine.
little baby ducks, when they're born, they look up and they say, are you my mother? And if you're not their mother, it doesn't matter, because that's who they're following around.
Yeah.
Like, your new employee is imprinting on your receptionist and everybody else.
She was going to imprint on her anyway. She wasn't going to be my baby. She's there to
You hired your
support
receptionist a baby?
She's there to support my assistant, okay? So she's been trained, and we have some, policies and procedures and what you do and what not to do. So the question here is, I go back, and of course I'll take them out to lunch and what have you, but can I rehabilitate the fact that I
Yes.
haven't been there for a while?
It's never too late. We have reboarded and rehabilitated people who got onboarded poorly 5 years later.
Okay.
Right? It's important that you go back and you start giving a shit, right? And that's what they're going to look for, and that's what they're going to care about.
Okay.
So it's not too late. It might be too late for this one, but it's not too late for the next one.
Okay.
We
All
can
right.
always try.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Sorry, I didn't see the mic over here.
That's okay. How do we do it with staffers? Get staffed up or like that, where they're in another country?
Okay, let me do this for employees, and then we'll talk about staffers,
Perfect.
because that's a different animal. So on day 2 of onboarding, do you guys have questions about day 1?
It's about the 2-week training for a new employee.
Okay, I'm going to get there, and then come back up if you still have questions.
I have a question about day
Thank you.
1.
All right, hold on. I ignored them for like 4 people. Okay.
Is it okay if day 1 doesn't last like the whole 8 hours?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I used to have, because we had to park downtown. A day 1 was usually a Monday. It was also jury trial day, and I knew parking was going to be awful, so I had them show up at 10:30, and I let them leave at 4. right? When someone shows up to work on day one, do you know what they care about the most? Where's the bathroom? Where's my desk? And who's my boss? It's very toddler-esque. It's me, and the bathroom. That's all that they have the bandwidth to even care about on day one. Unless they're really good at day ones, which leads me to believe you have just hired a problem. Okay.
One of the points on day one was take pictures and social and stuff. Is that something you recommend for day one, since you're like posting it to your social channels and this person's still a candidate?
Like fun stuff, yes.
Okay.
Like
But not
welcome-
like intro?
Don't tell them that you're still calling them the candidate. I forgot
Right,
to tell you that.
right.
They think they're an employee.
Right.
Let them think they're an employee who still has some onboarding to be done. You call them the candidate behind their back.
Okay.
Or like in memos.
But no like official, like this is our new hire.
I absolutely would put that stuff on socials.
Okay.
Right?
And-
Because everyone forgets what you put on social media 30 seconds after you do it. And if it's a bad hire, the story's gone in 24 hours.
Okay.
And it makes them feel happy about the decision that was made. And yeah.
But it doesn't need to be like the professional headshots.
Don't
where
add
you-
them to your website.
Okay.
Don't get their professional shots done, but take a fun one, post it to
Okay.
social media. Great
Perfect.
catch.
Thank you.
So on onboarding day 2, this is where we start connection. So day 1 was about the basics. Where's the desk? Where's the bathroom? Where's the kitchen? Who's your boss? Imprint on your new boss. Now we're going to start with get to know you questions. All of the things that you couldn't ask them legally during the interview process. Do you have kids? How old are you? How old are your kids? What do you like to do? All the things that's illegal to ask during the interview process. Things that you want to know about people without just like reading their HIPAA forms and trying to recalculate their age. Now you can just ask. You can find out their favorite food, what they like to drink, their favorite color, their favorite book. Why do I care about any of this? Connection. If you don't care, hire somebody who cares. Let them help you with this phase of the onboarding. Fake it till you make it. But if you know their favorite food, you always know what you can get them for their birthday lunches. You always know what kind of gift cards you can get them when they do a good job. If you know whether they like coffee, tea, or soda, you know to not get them a Starbucks card if they only drink water. Right? So just find out these things. It makes your life easier, it makes their life easier, and it just gives you some small talk. Some break the ice, new things that you can get to know about them. It's also stuff that you can't ask during the interview, so you just sit on that and make sure you don't ask it, because then you get the payoff of being able to ask on their second day of work. You go again over the job. This is more about the job description, the mission of the position. If you've put together scorecards, you go over the scorecard. This position, it's important in our office. This is our culture. These are the words that we're using for culture. These are the behaviors that are those words. Who here says their culture, you would like for your new employees to be empathetic? Good. Enough of you that I'm feeling better. Okay. Who here could stand up, and who thinks if we had 10 people define empathy that we would get 10 consistent definitions? Have you ever tried to interview someone and say, tell me about a time when you were successfully empathetic? You can't do that. No one knows how to answer that question. Instead, you decide for you, in your firm, what is empathy? What behaviors does a person do that lets you know they have the kind of empathy that you're thinking you want? Then you tell them about it during day 2. This is your scorecard. Here's how you scored. You're really high here. We really loved your answers here. You really get us, right? These are the skills that we're going to need you to have. These are the behaviors that are going to be rewarded. These are the ways that you're going to be bonused. This is the outcome that we want to see. You have all of these conversations. Days 2, 3, 4, 5, you start making that connection to the firm. You start clarifying. You talk to them about what's an A team member. What would make someone an F? What would make someone an A? You start using this language now, talking about employees. Don't name your employees. Name the A's, don't tell them who the F's are. And then when you start talking about this terminology with clients, they can make the connection. Many people coming to work for you have never heard about C or D clients before. They work for lawyers who were like you guys were before you came to How to Manage when we said, what's an A client? And you said, whoever pays me. This is their world they grew up in. You're going to bring them into your culture. So then in week 1, we finish going, we go through more get to know you questions. All of the things that you couldn't ask during the interview and more. They're increasingly tapped into work and motivation. We go from things like, what's your favorite scent? And we build up to, what's the best way to communicate with you after hours? Would you like me to call your home? Would you like me to call your cell? Would you like for me to text you? What if there's an emergency? What's the best way for me to interrupt you? If you're in the middle of something and I need help, what's the best way for me to let you know that? The give and take is that you're not just interviewing them. You're not just rapid fire, like popping questions on. They're then asking you the same thing. So that you guys are talking about, what's the best way for me to interrupt you? Well, here's the best way to interrupt me. Knock on the door and bring in a Post-it note. Send me a text, right? Send me a Voxer if it's an emergency. You're talking about these things so that everybody understands each other. If there's a firm administrator, the firm administrator is having these conversations. If you're an attorney and there's a managing attorney, the person's supervisor is having these conversations with them. You start talking with them and giving them assignments so that they can learn about your ideal clients. What's an A to F client? You have them read the client policies. One, just to wow them that you have client policies or a client welcome kit. By the way, if you want a client welcome kit, there's a workshop. It's all of your external policies. You give them their menu of services. You give them your procedures, your workflows. Don't give them your SKU calculator. You know how you felt when you saw it? Imagine how they feel on their second day of work when they're like, what is this? They don't need to know your profitability per line of business. They don't need to know how much per minute you're paying your managing attorney to review a will, right? Give them the workflow, give them the menu of service. Francisco.
Something you said made me just think of how we budget for the staff who's going to be doing all this training. And, you know, with the number of people that we have set to hire, I'm thinking, okay, my managing attorney is not going to be productive 1, 2, 3, 4, how many weeks? My PLA, I consider that sort of like part of that. How much of our billable staff time is allocated to training?
So during week 1, your PLA can do almost all of it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Your PLA has your new employees, even if they're attorneys, for almost the whole first week. Because this isn't how to set legal strategy. This isn't how to do a case. This is, here's our firm, here's our processes, here's our procedures.
Okay.
You're gonna start there, you're gonna lose a half hour of your managing attorney's day at the beginning and a half hour of their day at the end. When you get into, you know, day 5, 6, 7, 8, and they're doing their top of the morning meetings and their end of day meetings, like half hour here, half hour there.
Okay. So week 2, though, it's going to start in with some substantive training.
Yes.
Yeah. So we just have to, like, I mean, 46 weeks is what we're budgeting for our legal team to be productive. This would take those supervising positions down from that.
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
That's another reason why you want to use assignments instead of having people train on live ammo. When you're starting building your onboarding system, you might not have assignments for them to use. You might be giving them files and say, go draft this motion and bring it back to me to review. As you start building a more enhanced onboarding system, you want to have a fake file with a fake motion, with a fake set of facts, and you give them the fake file and you say, go find a motion here. And then that allows you to start benchmarking. Were they able to find the motion faster than the last person was able to find the motion? You tell them you have 3 hours, go read this statement of facts, go read these documents, come back to me with your defense. You go give them stuff that they can do to be productive that doesn't involve screwing up your client's files. Yes.
So I don't have a PLA right now, and but I do record. I have, like Layla, I also have a remote team. So I record Loom videos to walk them through all of the, I do like a screen share and I show them how to access stuff.
That's great.
I almost feel like though, I try to keep the videos short, like 3 to 5 minutes, 10 sometimes if it's, really complex, but for the most part, the systems aren't that difficult to navigate. But I do feel like they need sort of like a follow-up, here's the system. I mean, they can always refer back to the video, but I like the idea of the assignments. Do you recommend after, kind of solidifying it with an assignment, but then having them come back to you after the task is done, or at the end of the day, so they're not constantly coming back to you, hey, can I have another meeting? Hey, can I have another meeting? Hey, I finished this.
Yep, that's why I like doing it end of day.
Okay.
It allows them to start structuring, and if you have policies that say, we're going to have stand-up meetings at the beginning of the day, here's the hours that you can do office hours to interrupt your supervisor. You don't want to start them in the habit of knock, 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 do you have a minute? You want them to learn to save it up, so you give them enough to do.
Okay.
That they're good for it's like toddlers, right? It's enough to do so that they're good for 4 or 5 hours, you can get some work done, and then you can check back in with them and see how they're going.
Okay, thank you.
This is why you don't let them watch me talk. Just call it. April.
How is this modified if they are bringing a book of business with them? They've got cases,
You've
but...
still got to do week 1 because they don't know how to do cases in your firm.
Right.
And one of the biggest things I hear is, they hoard hours, they don't use paralegals the way we want them to. So week 1 is them learning how to get it done in your firm, your rules, your mode of operation, your communication styles, your people. In week 2, I still don't want to take their word that just because they're bringing a book of business that they were any good at the book of business. I still want to give them some stuff and say, let me see what they do with this. Right? So really, nobody yet gets the benefit of your doubt.
Okay. You let them work on their cases?
I would give, if you don't have assignment files, I would let them work on their cases. If you do have I would give them an assignment.
Okay. Because
to
you
get
kind of
an
wonder
idea.
if they were so good, why would they be coming over?
Well,
Okay.
maybe they don't like marketing, maybe they
Sure.
don't like running a business, maybe they didn't have the stomach for entrepreneurship, and that's okay, but maybe they also weren't very good attorneys. I don't know. You want to know.
Okay.
Joy?
Hi, Nichole. So, how do you modify it for a temp turned perm? As then, we had someone who was a temp, is now a permanent employee, and we have another one who's a temp that we.
So the fun part about that is the training on how to do that. You did week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 first. So now what you get to do is start building connection and going back and talking with them about, because you don't need to sit down with your temp employees and talk about what's your favorite color, what's your favorite scent, do you celebrate Christmas, how do you want to handle these different directions. But you can, now when the person's permanent, you can go back and revisit those areas. Knowing that they've been trained on how to do the work, now you can go back and build connection.
So let's pretend in my scenario that they haven't been trained properly on how to do the work. And we don't want to, go back because the temp is coming into triage for the most part. And so now to go all the way back.
So do it like celebrating an adoption. Be like, hey, now you're official. And start with day 1.
Okay.
And now you're my employee. I care about you to a whole different degree than what I cared about you yesterday.
Okay.
I'm being completely honest. That was the one thing that I didn't actually mean to be funny. Because you do care about your employee a whole different way than you cared about the temp person who came into triage. Now we're gonna immerse you in our culture. We're gonna invite you into our club. We're gonna bring you in. We're gonna teach you the words. We're gonna find out what your favorite perfume is, and like now we're gonna really train you on how to do the job. You're gonna learn why we do what we do, not just how to come in and plug a hole.
Okay, all right, thank you.
These are also the conversations during week 2 and 3. There's a lot of shadowing and being shadowed. There's not like sitting in a room doing classroom training. It's not sitting there necessarily watching a bunch of videos. This is when it's safe to really start at weeks 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, introducing them to people in the office, even the crazy ones, if we need to see what they do. And this is where you have a lot of watch how this department works. Watch them work from policies and procedures. Watch them use our checklist. Watch them use our case management system. Okay, now you watched them answer the phone for 2 hours. Now you take a shot at answering the phone. And they're going to sit here and watch you do it. If you don't, I'll call you guys 1 second. If you don't have policies and procedures, what is your candidate's assignment? Write down step by step what the person you're shadowing, write down what they're doing. At the end of the day, type it up. They just made a procedure. If you have policies and procedures, you print them out and give them to them. And as they're shadowing, they take notes on the policies and procedures. And at the end of the day, they type up their notes. And guess what you have? An updated procedure. Then the next time you hire someone, they pull out the typed up version that your last candidate worked on, and they use it to see if it's still good. They add in what got missed. This is how your procedures continue to grow and evolve and be part of onboarding. Then you get a professional legal administrator, and they say, that is so cute. And then they redo it all. But at least you had it good enough to get you to this point. And that's what you really need. Hi.
Hi. My biggest issue right now is I have Roxar, a paralegal, who just doesn't talk a lot. I can't break through to her, trying to develop that connection with her. When she got hired, the firm was going through a crisis. So at that time, it was just, hey, you're onboarded, which is really the orientation, and get to work. But now that things are kind of settling in and I'm trying to, do firm lunches and trying to get to know the staff and trying to develop that relationship, how do you retroactively do that with someone who's so introverted and it's like, yeah, I'm good?
You just keep trying.
Keep trying, yeah.
And then one of the things you realize is maybe that hire that you made at that time,
Yeah.
that ability to come in, put your head down, and get to work, that's what you needed at that time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not what you need now.
No, I definitely need her.
Okay.
I just,
If she doesn't want to engage, are you still okay with that?
I am.
If you never know her favorite book, are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. I see her engaging with staff, and that's okay because I'm the boss and she's staff. I just have had experiences in the past where the lack of communication and relationship building, even in that boss-employee, framework, has led to misunderstandings and bad performance, and I don't want to go down that road again. So I was trying to...
So that is now on recording.
Okay.
Play that back before you sit down and have a conversation with her and say that.
Okay.
And like if she's like most introverts, we don't want to talk about the weather, but I will absolutely discuss with you the meaning of life.
Okay.
Right? We're not good at small talk. I don't want to talk about my favorite book. I don't need you to know whether I like coffee or tea.
Yeah.
But you want me to talk to you about how am I going to know you're frustrated? Oh, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
I can have a conversation about that. And if I see that you're willing to have that conversation back with me, these are my goals, this is how you're going to know if I'm frustrated, this is how it might show up. This is why I think this conversation is important, because I've had really good relationships backfire, and I just don't want that to happen. You matter to me.
Yeah,
That does a lot to open the door.
sounds like my 5-year-old. Let him know what mommy's going to talk about first. Thank you.
And why it's important.
And why it's important.
Ms. Schultz?
So I was wondering if this structure or this sequence changes depending on the role, or if it can change depending on the role. So for an example, I am onboarding 2 intake people on Monday. I thought I had a really wonderful whole 2-week plan, and now I'm realizing maybe not so much. Because the last time we had done this, we put this basic stuff up front. By the time I got to the end of the 2nd week, when they just started learning how to do intake, and then that took an extra week and a half. So I was into the 4th week before we realized they can't talk to anyone on the frickin' phone. So in my brain, I said, well, let's reverse it. Let's try to get them the training for the role a little heavier handed in the 1st week, because if they can't talk to a client on the phone, if they can't get basic information, if they can't sell the consult, I don't care if they can use the practice management software. What good does that do for me?
So when we talked about assignments, right, during week 1, week 2, you want to give them a lot of assignments. Think of different assignments you can have them do that aren't playing with live ammo in your leads. So raise the dead. Go back to old leads and see if they can talk to those people. Watch someone do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 calls, and then go do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 calls with people who you don't care if they mess it up, to see if they do.
Right.
And bring that in early week 2. Make that one of their assignments that they're doing.
Because we have a little like in-house intake university, just for intake. So we were gonna, and maybe you're saying me, push it a little bit closer to week 2, try to get them used to that, because we do intake very particularly.
I'm not surprised.
Shocker. Get that into that training way up front, just learning the mechanics of that training. And it's not, name, address, it's not that.
Right.
It's literally, like what to say to a consult when they say this, and what you should say, what you shouldn't say.
And think about the duration of onboarding and how quickly you should allow them to dip their toe into the actual role is going to have a lot to do with how much autonomy and discretion this position has. You don't need to keep a receptionist candidate away from the phone for 2 weeks. Right? You want them on the phone. You don't want a PLA picking new payroll providers their second day there. So like that onboarding, that much autonomy, that much discretion, that's 90 days, 180 days. Intake, you can let them sort of start playing around with raising the dead, doing gas calls, end of their 2nd week after they've shadowed, and then they do it while being shadowed. And after every call, they get feedback.
Okay, so it's okay to start teaching them. We're not even letting them loose, but we're teaching them how to sell the consult early. Okay, thank you.
Adam?
So I've laid out onboarding plans like this, scheduled to go 2, 3, 4 weeks. I find that I go through the materials pretty quickly. So I need fill-in, right? Because I don't want the person working 3 hours a day for the first 3 weeks, because that's setting a pretty bad expectation. So should I be doing more shadowing when there's extra time in the day? When we get through all the day 2 stuff, how do we fill the rest of the time?
1, go slower. If you think you've planned out a whole day 2 worth of stuff and you get through it, go slower or do it again. Or ask them to explain things back to you. You want it to be interactive and not a presentation. You want it to be far more interactive than I'm being right now. Where you talk and then you ask them what do they think of that, and don't say, do you have questions? Take that phrase and remove it from your vocabulary. Do you have any questions? Because no one wants to be the asshole that says yes. Instead, you say, what do you think about that? What questions do you have about that? What does that make you want to talk about? What does that prompt for you? Start with a what. Get them talking more. If you've done all of that and you get through day 2, you can start shadowing, depending on the position. You can have them start shadowing faster. You can also give them assignments. So you can talk to them about your menu of services. You can see if they're taking notes. You can talk to them about your workflows. You can give them an example of one. And then you can say, I'm going to give you the next hour. Go ahead and write for me the menu of services. Take a look at these workflows and let me know what questions you have. I'll be back in an hour to talk to you about it. You can give them an assignment like, here's a case number. Find it in our case management system. Let me know which type of case you think this is according to our menu of services. You can have them start marrying concepts together and seeing if they can fill in the next logical step. Have them read your procedures, then come back and review them. Have them read your policies, then come back and review them. When you take your onboarding plan to the next level, there are systems out there, you can build in multiple choice tests. So read the employee guide and then take a test on the employee guide. Talk about the mission, vision, and values, and then on day 3, take a test on the mission, vision, and values. And then yes, you can always have them start shadowing. Because, and you can have them shadow, and I love to have them shadow in every department. If you're the receptionist, why not learn what a case meeting looks like between the attorney and a paralegal? Why not learn what an intake call looks like if you're the receptionist? Why not learn what an attorney does when they go to court if you're a salesperson? Why wouldn't the professional legal administrator sit and watch the bookkeeper or the billing specialist do their job? Let everybody see everything. Let them shadow it. Let them see it so they see how they fit in the bigger picture. You're not going to let them do it. You're not going to say, okay, attorney, now you do the bookkeeping. Like, you're not going to do that. But you're going to let them see, oh, I have to go chase down this receipt. Oh, I have to go figure out what expense this case hooks up to. And they start to realize, like, oh, it'd be really helpful if I gave them that information. You let them practice with the timekeeping system. Here's our timekeeping policies and procedures. You just did this on a case. You just met with a client and prepped for a motion to compel. Go enter it in the timekeeping system, and let's see what those entries look like. So you can give them lots of assignments. You can do lots of shadowing. And then you review each of them with them. One, then two. Okay.
So as you're talking about shadowing and stuff, I'm running through my head because I run a virtual firm. How exactly would that be implemented in terms of an intake? I mean, because it becomes a little clunky to say to the client, can you hold on for 1 second while I get my new hire on a conference call, if it's okay with you, so that she can shadow how this works? I mean, it seems clunky.
You could conference in the new person first.
But if it's...
Oh, for an intake?
Yeah.
Because they're calling in?
Yeah.
Do you do them on Zoom or by phone?
By phone, because they're calling in usually, by phone. The Zoom is easy enough on those.
Can you record them so that they can hear what they're like?
I think it has that ability, but okay, that's a good idea.
So when I shadow coaches' calls, I don't always have the ability to jump on the call at the same time. Some of the shadowing that I do is asynchronous. I'm listening to recordings.
Okay.
Some of my shadowing of lawyers was listening to the recordings of their deposition or listening to their court hearings if I couldn't be in the courtroom to watch it.
Okay.
So you can look at recording. You can look at, for a day, it can't be that clunky. Just see the intake person say, okay, please hold. That's all they have to say is hold on 1 second. conference the person in and say, okay, hi, it's me, so-and-so from here, and here's our new intake specialist, how can I help you? I've conferenced people in on phones before. It might take 30 seconds until you get really good at it.
Right, I was just thinking it would just feel clunky to the new PNC calling in, but maybe not. Maybe I'm overthinking it.
Yeah,
Okay. I like the recording idea. That's a good, I'll look into that. Thank you.
no problem.
Hi, I'd like to know, what does the end of the day meeting look like and the end of the day go and no-go decision?
Okay, so the whole first couple weeks, the end of the day meeting is going to be, here's what you learned today, what did you think about it, what questions do you have?
Okay.
The go, no to go decision is when you sit down and decide, is this person coming back tomorrow?
Period, okay.
Is this person still the candidate?
Okay.
Or has a decision been made?
Okay.
And then we talk about how to have that conversation with them to let them know a decision has been made.
And these happen all throughout?
Yes. Every single day you're making an affirmative decision as to whether or not you want to continue the relationship.